here's the surprise. I had several apps, minor apps, ones that you haven't even heard of, that had Twitter permissions that I was unaware of until I checked my phone. That's right. A person, me, who would never intentionally give a third-party app access to my Twitter account, had given 8 different, I think there were 8 of them, 8 different apps actually had permission to change my Twitter account. Let me give you a little update on Twitter and Google and the questions about some alleged shadow banning. I have a new hypothesis for why Twitter seems to sometimes, for some accounts in some situations, you can follow people and then be unfollowed. If you're following the story, you know that Ambassador Grinnell, his account, many people, lots and lots of people, including me, reported following him multiple times, only to find later that they had somehow been unfollowed. So I did contact Jack Dorsey. I was asking about it, and he's looking into it. And I don't have an official answer yet. He asked some follow-up questions that I answered. So Twitter's looking into it. But while they were looking into it, and as I mentioned before, this TikTok app that is owned by a Chinese company can, under some situations, ask for permission to control your Twitter account. I guess if you're going to post your TikTok videos to Twitter, it needs some permissions. So one of the possibilities is that there's a third-party app that's controlling your Twitter. And so I looked into my Twitter permissions. I looked into my permissions for any apps to see if I had any apps that had permission to change my Twitter account. And here's the thing. I would never give an app, a third-party app, permission to control my Twitter feed. I would never do that. Now, there are a few exceptions. One is Periscope itself, because it's a Twitter product, so I don't have a problem with Periscope being able to change my Twitter account. It's all the same company. And I did have Hootsuite connected, because Hootsuite is an app that lets you post to different social platforms. But here's the surprise. I had several apps, minor apps, ones that you haven't even heard of, that had Twitter permissions that I was unaware of until I checked my phone. That's right. A person, me, who would never intentionally give a third-party app access to my Twitter account, had given 8 different, I think there were 8 of them, 8 different apps actually had permission to change my Twitter account. If you had asked me, I would have said 0, because I would never consciously make that decision, except in those few cases that are obviously safe. But there were several on there that were just apps I tried out at one point and another. Now, at what part in the process did I not see that those apps were asking for that permission? Because I never would have given that permission. Not in a million years, not intentionally. So here's my new hypothesis. It's third-party apps. So I would like to ask those of you who have had any experience of following and unfollowing anybody, or maybe even if you've been followed and unfollowed. So anybody who's had the experience of having an automatic unfollow that was not yours, check your phone. How do you check? I don't remember enough to tell you, but just Google it. How do you check your phone's app permissions? It'll pop right up. Just Google it, and you'll see the directions. So if I had to rank the possibilities, the names of the apps actually don't matter, because, as I said, it was a variety of them. I had like 8 different apps. So you need to just check all of your permissions. Don't start with, do I have those specific apps? Just check all the permissions, because it's the ones that are sneaking in there that are the problem, maybe. So if we were to look at all the possible explanations for why Twitter seems to be performing in a way that we would not expect and had not authorized, the one is that it's senior management of Twitter trying to influence the election. Personally, I give that essentially zero credibility, because human nature is not such that people who are already winners, in other words, if you're a senior management or you've got a ton of stock in Twitter, you're a winner in the game of life. I mean, you've done well, right? It would be insane for them to collectively decide that they would risk their reputations, their stock, their company, risk it all for a scheme that would be so obvious to detect, because we're all looking at it. We can detect it. We can see that you followed and unfollowed. So I would say the odds that Twitter management is behind it is basically zero. I'll always allow that there's always, anything could happen. You can never put really zero on anything, but it's close to zero. The other possibility is that it's some kind of a bug. I think that's also close to zero, because it's so obvious. It's just so obvious that how would Twitter not know about it? How would they develop a product that's this ubiquitous, but it couldn't do the simplest thing technology can do, a little handshake between the app and the central servers that says, did you get my signal? Yes, I did. Okay, now I'm done. Simplest thing you could do in technology. So it's not a bug, and it almost certainly is not senior management. But having seen now how many third-party apps could have done this, I would say the odds are something like 80% that there are bad actors from the outside who are messing with your Twitter feed. So that's my current speculation, current hypothesis. I'll keep you updated.